Good morning. My name is Evgenia Anagnostopoulou, and I am affiliated with the Department of Business Administration at the University of Macedonia in Thessaloniki, Greece. My research centers on corporate climate strategies, alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals, and environmental performance. This specific project examines the textiles, apparel, and luxury goods industry, exploring whether the adoption of SDG language in this sector is accompanied by meaningful changes in policies and outcomes. Aloy will continue this presentation for me. Please feel free to contact me with any questions, comments, or clarifications. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aloy, and we will continue this presentation together. This study examines 134 publicly listed firms in the textiles, apparel, and luxury goods sector, utilizing 2024 data from Refinitiv DataStream. The exclusive focus on listed firms ensures consistent access to Sustainable Development Goal disclosure, policy, and performance indicators across countries. The industry is divided into three segments. The apparel, accessories, and luxury goods segment comprises branded clothing, fashion accessories, and luxury items. The textile segment includes producers of fibers, yarns, and fabrics that supply the remainder of the value chain. The footwear segment consists of manufacturers of shoes, boots, and athletic footwear. These firms operate across 5 major regions: North America and the Caribbean, Europe, Asia Pacific, Latin America, and the Middle East and Africa. This regional distribution enables analysis of differences in institutional context and stakeholder pressure when interpreting SDG adoption, policies, and outcomes. The analysis focuses on 4 outcome indices: resource use performance, emissions performance, human rights performance, and net employment creation. On the policy dimension, the analysis incorporates indices measuring the strength of resource use policies, climate and emissions policies, human rights policies, and a composite index for child and forced labor policies. In combination with the adoption indicators for SDGs 8, 12, and 13, these measures distinguish between high-level SDG signaling and concrete governance commitments. The analysis also controls for firm characteristics likely to influence performance, including firm size, profitability, leverage, and regional indicators. The methodological approach begins with descriptive statistics, correlations, and Kruskal-Wallis tests to examine differences in adoption, policies, and outcomes across regions and industry segments. Separate ordinary least squares regressions are then estimated for each outcome index. The regional analysis shows a similar trend in the adoption of Sustainable Development Goals 8, 12, and 13. However, notable differences are seen in performance and policy. We observe that Europe, Latin America, and the Middle East and Africa rank higher in resource use, emissions, and human rights performance. In contrast, the Asia-Pacific region and, to a lesser extent, North America and the Caribbean rank lower. This trend is also evident in policy strength. Latin America, Europe, and the Middle East and Africa generally have more robust policies on resource use, emissions, and human rights, while the Asia-Pacific consistently ranks lower. Turning to the analysis by industry segment, the findings are more uniform. The adoption of the SDGs and most performance indicators is quite similar across the apparel, luxury goods, textiles, and footwear industries. The notable exception lies in the policy strength indices, where footwear shows somewhat stronger policies, while clothing and textiles are positioned in the middle. This section discusses multivariate ordinary least squares models for 4 outcomes: resource use performance, emissions performance, net employment creation, and human rights performance. For resource use performance, the adoption of SDG 12 and strong resource use policies is significantly associated with higher scores. Larger and more profitable firms exhibit greater efficiency. In emissions performance, a similar positive association is found with SDG 13 adoption and climate policies, while firm size remains significant. In net employment creation, neither the SDG nor the human rights and forced labor policies are significant. Here, larger and more profitable firms are the primary drivers of job creation, suggesting that SDG 8 and social policies do not directly impact employment in global value chains. For human rights performance, SDG 8 adoption and the Forced Labor Policy Index show significant positive effects, while the broader Human Rights Policy Index does not, maintaining positive associations with firm size and profitability. The overall pattern is mixed. In contexts where governance and organizational capabilities are established, SDG adoption is correlated with improved outcomes. Specifically, the adoption of SDG 12 and SDG 13, alongside robust resource use and climate policies, is associated with enhanced resource and emissions performance. Similarly, SDG 8, when combined with stronger forced labor policies, is associated with improved human rights performance. These findings indicate that embedding SDG commitments within governance structures can result in substantive rather than merely symbolic progress. Conversely, the results also indicate evidence of symbolic or weakly implemented engagement, particularly within the social domain. The broad Human Rights Policy Index lacks statistical significance, and neither SDG 8 nor related social policies account for net employment creation. These observations suggest that certain policy statements and SDG references have not yet been effectively operationalized. The regional context also plays a critical role. North America and the Caribbean, as well as Asia Pacific, lag behind Latin America and the Middle East and Africa in several environmental and human rights outcomes, despite similar SDG adoption rates. This finding underscores the influence of institutional environments and stakeholder pressures in determining whether SDG engagement is substantive or primarily symbolic. This slide synthesizes the principal findings of the study. First, in the environmental domain, improved performance in resource use and emissions occurs when SDG adoption is accompanied by stringent resource use and climate policies. Second, in the social domain, the adoption of SDG 8 and the implementation of robust forced labor policies are clearly associated with improved human rights performance. However, these commitments do not result in net employment growth. Third, the results underscore the significance of regional context. Environmental and human rights outcomes vary more substantially by region than by industry segment, despite similar SDG adoption rates across regions. Overall, the evidence reveals a mixed pattern of substantive and symbolic elements. SDG labels can produce tangible improvements only when supported by robust governance, clearly defined targets, and effective implementation. In the absence of these elements, SDG engagement is likely to remain largely symbolic. That concludes my presentation. Please feel free to contact me with any questions, comments, or clarifications. I would be happy to continue the discussion and share additional insights. Thank you once again for your time and interest.